Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to meeting my new friend, Shelley. We've just been having a lovely talk about being children that after World War II, their families moved around and they lived in different countries and they did different things. And so we've had a lovely, lovely time talking with Shelley. But Shelley works with, um, let's see, this is where you can find her. This is her website. And I'm going to let you explain to people what she does. When I saw Shelley talking with Tim Walter up in York, and I said, no, I got to get this woman on my show, you know. And Tim told me how to find you. And so I'm going to let you explain, Shelley, what it is that you do.
Well, thank you, Nancy Jean. It's an honor to be with you today. And thank you for inviting me. And such a lovely introduction too. My passion in life, it's not really work, is flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Flowers which began as a child in a beautiful English country garden, just always wanting to be outside with flowers and nature. Through an advertising career after a science degree, so a very skeptical, intellectual left-brain mindset. Journey of IVF was my awakening at the age of 33. After the third round, when a consultant said there's no hope for you, can't do anything more for you, my friend introduced me to the Australian bush flower essences. And out of politeness, I took a bottle of drops. And I said to my friend, so what is this bottle? And he said, oh, it's the energy of a flower in a bottle. And I was like, yeah, right, okay, well, I'll just be polite and take it.
I'll take it home and hide it in a drawer.
Yeah. Well, I did actually take it because I knew my friend was new at the time, as it was in the early 90s. He was a kind of life coach, spiritual coach. So I was one of test clients, if you like. So there was no escaping not taking it. But I'm a great one for, well, what am I taking? What's it doing? How does it work? So coincidentally for me, Ian White, who's the producer of the Australian bush flower essences, had just written a book all about the bush flower essence range. So I read it from cover to cover, and something inside me went, oh, this is interesting. Can't put it in a box, can't rationalize it, don't understand it. But so fast forward a few years, and from becoming very evangelical about flower essences, I was handing them out, finding big benefits for myself in terms of the way I was changing, the way I was feeling, becoming more open-minded, just emotions calming down, not always such a hamster on the treadmill of life, off it to enjoy life a bit more. And I came across a course to study flower and vibrational essences from all over the world. So it's a very in-depth course which I did for 2 years, and that was my stepping stone from away from advertising into the next 30 years of my life, basically. So for 15 years, I was practicing as a flower consultant, seeing a good few hundred clients of all ages, from little tiny tots to babies in wombs, babies, to be born, right through to 90s and twilight years and passing. So for all kinds of different life challenges, all kinds of things going on in people's lives. So it's good grounding in working and really getting to understand flower essences. Then I got a kind of a feeling that there had to be another way, because there's still so little known. In the UK, if people know about flower essences, they tend to know about the bark flowers, the bark flower remedies, rescue remedy.
Yeah, Bach. It's BACH, right?
Yes, many different ways to pronounce it. The purists say bark, depending on whether, anyway. So bark flowers is is what I've said for many years.
That's what Americans would say.
Okay, fine. Everyone understands they're the bark flowers. And I had a sort of feeling that there was another way. My consultation with clients, a way of consulting had changed in that rather than listening and so many words being used and us going over what was going on, I began to just intuitively gather a set of essences before my clients came, and I'd lay them out on the table or on the floor where I often sat with my clients, and I would say, okay, look at the names on the bottles or look at the pictures, what are you drawn to? And consultations became short and sweet because it was just like, I'll have that one out of the 30 bottles that I'd chosen. And then I'd explain the qualities of the essence, and it was always very relevant to them. So it's like they self-selected the blend rather than me. I'd intuitively selected a larger range for them to choose from, but they self-selected. And I thought, well, there has to be another way again. And I'd already been making my own vibrational essences. I'd made a sacred geometry range. I'd made a set of starseed essences, vibrational essences. And then the call came from my own garden flowers, where I lived in Kent at the time, rural Kent, to start creating my own range of flower essences through the seasons. So I began in March with yellow crocus and ended up with dahlias at the end of October. So it's kind of through the seasons I was guided to really tune into the subtle realms. And all this time, one of the ranges that had really sparked caught my, I want to say imagination, but deeper than that, caught my soul and took my breath away when I was studying, was Michelle Small Wright, who has the Perelandra garden and the Perelandra essences in Virginia in the USA.
Oh, yes.
And she very much, in 1974, she set up the Perelandra garden wanting to know what, she said, I set it up with a specific question of what does nature know? I want the nature intelligences to tell me what they know, and so that we can co-create with them. And that was something that blew me away on my course. And it was kind of a moment when there was this little film. It was 1999, 2000 when I studied the course. So it's way before YouTube even, and people making films. There was this little video that we could all watch where she went into detail about how she worked with the subtle realms and what she did. And something in me knew then that was what I was going to do. So the other part of it was that fast forward to when I'm inviting my clients to choose from the bottles, and I'm guided by my own subtle realm, the subtle realms, the nature spirits of my garden, start co-creating and making flower essences. My own practice with essences began to change, and it just became more and more visual, just showing my clients pictures of flowers, or even taking them into the garden, saying, which flowers are you drawn to? Where would you like to go and sit in the garden? And less and less words, more and more simply being with flowers and nature. And then a year after that, that was 2015, 2016, I came across a network in the UK called the Flowers from the Farm, and it was new then, but it was a movement that had started to rekindle the British flower farming and flower growing industry, because there were 90% of flowers were imported and sprayed, to get through the EU and back into the UK. And so this is all about growing flowers sustainably, locally, with seasons. The slow growing flower movement, I believe it's called, in America and also Australia and other parts of the world, where it's basically growing flowers in tune with the seasons. So I started doing this. My husband and I started doing it in the garden we had at the time on a small scale. We realized very quickly we were growing our own flower essence pharmacy. We started to grow flowers, and I started to create blends, bouquets intuitively, blending the flowers that felt right just for a particular order, knowing the language of each flower. And that quickly evolved into a larger scale, if you like, flower farming, flower essence farming setup.
Mm-hmm.
We then COVID hit, and we ended up moving house, and we moved into a rental. That's a long story. Of the rental was on a brand new house, and we moved in, and it had been a building. The ground had been a building site before we got there, so it was a real. It's like we were uprooted deliberately from a place that we had a deep relationship with nature and the flowers there, and the trees and everything, and the nature spirits knew us and we knew them, to being plonked onto this ground that had ground source heating put in, so it had just been turfed over like the week before we got there, and you could feel pipes and wires and everything underneath the soil, so total disruption of the land. And it was doing what we do, what we have come to teach now, inviting the nature spirits in, co-creating with them, where to put the beds, what to grow, how to grow, when to grow, what seeds to plant, tuning into the consciousness of the seeds. So really laying out these 15, 20 beds on a large scale on a no-dig basis.
Mm-hmm.
And growing the whole neighborhood was like, when we said we're going to grow lots of flowers, they were like, yeah, right, good luck with that. We know what's under the ground there. To everybody coming in and saying, how did you do that? How does that happen on this plot? And it also was a chance to really deepen my relationship, especially, and I would say trust and knowing with the nature spirits, the flower devas, and landscape angels, the subtle realms, as I collectively call them, and as they invite me to call them, that's just my term, to really learn how to translate their language and work with them and co-create very closely. So out of that then has been born Floral Essence Farming, which is now, having had this experience, this evolution from working with global ranges to creating my own flower essences on my doorstep, to then growing British flowers through the seasons, tuning into the seasons, then working with the subtle realms very closely, to now it's like the term flower essence farming came in a download just in December, on the solstice, 21st of December 2025. And my husband and I both heard it with our border collies as we were walking around this forest that we know very well in Suffolk in the UK. And this whole vision came of, this is what it is, this is how you do it. And it's like creating a global network of flower pharmacies where we work co-creatively with the nature spirits, and people can create flower essence medicine if they want, or I can teach them how to arrange flowers with spirit, as I call it. So understanding the language of the flowers in their part of the world, and understand how to work with nature spirits and the nature realms in their part of the world, because it is going to be different all around the world. There will be different energies, different aspects. And on a bigger scale, in terms of the idea between flower essence farming, creating these flower essence pharmacies around the world, is to create a global network of light that connects with the light grid around the earth. So where the Mother Nature is always searching for homeostasis, always searching for balance, as our bodies are nature. So where we have disrupted nature, where nature gets disrupted around the world, in the Amazon, where there's a war zone, then another part of the world, will throw up a hurricane or a bad weather, as people call it. But simply it's nature going, well, I need to keep myself balanced here. I need to work this out. If you're going to mess with me over there, I'm just going to do this here, because it brings balance, it brings harmony to the human mind. It's like catastrophe, disaster. To nature and her intelligence knows exactly how to create harmony and balance. So again, feeding through flower essence pharmacies, connecting with the nature on your doorstep, connecting then with the wider light grids and up into the higher realms. It's like repairing nature, repairing the light grid, working with the light grids, so that the as above, so below becomes woven together in this tapestry that starts from the light grid and is woven ever paced down, if you like, slower and slower, until it's woven right into the flowers that are grown and co-created as pharmacies with the nature spirits. So it's like a patchwork, if you like, that we're going to create, weaving tapestries of light around the world through flowers.
That's wonderful. I want to thank Marianne for her generous contribution to help keep this channel so we can hear more about flowers and elementals and things. It seems to me I was always a woo-woo person. I mean, I do have a business degree, and I did work for a major corporation.
Yeah.
And they didn't hire me to read cards, but I like you, when all of a sudden the flowers struck you. I went to Denver and saw crystals, and all of a sudden they just sang to me. And it started with sacred geometry and learning how to work with it and trying to build a way for other people to use crystals. And that's kind of how my practice grew, except I can't go plant mines or things. I have to go figure out where they are in the world where you can grow them. But I'm thinking, like, in Dallas, where I live, we have we're in you're in England. I know there's different parts that are have different kinds of climates, so you can grow sorts of different things. But this area I live in the U.S., we have 6 pollen zones. So 6 different, and pollen zones are really usually pretty big. They're all squished up here. Terrible for people with allergies, because if you've got an allergy, we got a plant for you here. But
like Australia, yep,
and I like what you say about you feel like you're connecting to other things. And there's a person in the chat who would love, you talked about finding flowers that relate to star seeds. Dr. Gail from Skywalking with Moon is in the chat. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that works?
Planting flowers with star seeds. So wherever you are in the world, what I begin with always is feeling, really getting to know the sense of your own land and locality. And for me, for example, with seeds, I always hold seeds for quite some time and walk around where I am, walk around my land to feel where they want to perhaps be sown. They might not be planted there, where they're sown. And that in itself will have a connection with the stars above. And also it has an intimate connection with the excuse me, the timing. So of course we know we're on a rock that's spinning at 66,000 miles, whatever it is, massive speed. We're not stationary, although we think we might be. But then the stars are moving, the planets are moving. It's like there's this constant dance going on. So just walking around I'm talking about the physical seeds. I'll come on to star seeds. Excuse me. Walking around with physical seeds, you kind of get a real feel for them, the connection between the stars, the planets. And I'm a great one for moving and letting everything feel, and to know where and what those seeds, where they want to go. They want to go at all in your garden. You might think, I want to grow, I'll grow this flower in Texas, and in your particular locality might be going, doesn't fit with what's going on above, the stars, the planets, no. But in terms of star seeds, they were the essences I created were they were specifically connected at a moment in time to particular star patterns. Now I can't sit here and say it was this nebula or it was that star. I totally go with how something feels. So the star seed essences themselves, what kind of came in through the bowl of water that I put under the stars that particular night when these starseed essences were made, they gave me names. But interestingly, each starseed essence, and there were just 4 of them, they came through trees in my garden. So they came through oak, silver birch, poplar, and an apple blossom tree. And I believe that's because, again, as above, so below, a tree, all the branches that go out, and I love looking through trees, especially in winter, at the stars through them, because it's like this network you can see, almost like the stars sit on the branches. And then through the roots, as we all know, the roots of trees connect, speak to each other. So there's an extraordinary alchemy that I believe goes on between stars, trees, and earth. So it's like all I had to do was place a bowl of water around this tree, let the star seed energy come in, and that was my starseed essence. But since then, I have been guided to do that with physical seeds, and walk around. It could be totally illogical again that my seeds that relate to the star grids going on at the time might want to be planted around a particular tree because of the network that's going on under the earth. And it's not, so there's, I hope that answers the question enough.
No, that this is a comment. And hi, Shelley. Have you noticed that a lot of flowers have no fragrance?
Yes, that'll be very different around the world, but yes, that's true. If I could say, a lot of it is, again, it's to humans, they have no fragrance, because there's many, many dimensions. And again, one of the things, part of what I teach people with flowers, and we'll be doing as part of my flowers course, is learning to understand flowers beyond our normal senses. So we may think they have no fragrance, but that's to us. But the communication that goes on between flowers is totally different. Flowers, I have a saying, flowers speak a language our soul understands, which is why we are instinctively drawn to flowers that we love, or maybe even need a particular flower on a certain day. And just by looking at it, we're taking in their geometry, maybe their fragrance, their non-fragrance on another level. Because my own view from I have a fascination with the science of everything. I don't profess to be a great, a modern day scientist, but I'm always interested in the quantum level, the quantum science, because I have a science and biology degree, but that's years old now. I'm always I always see everything on a vibrational level. And I see everything, when you look at a flower, I know there's many dimensions to that flower before it comes physical. So yes, whilst they may have no fragrance to the human nose, there's kind of a lot of vibrational levels that are going on that may have a scent to a bird, to an animal, to an insect.
Well, Helene lives in California. That's the second part. This is continued. She lives in California, and I've noticed, with the exception of being in Hawaii, where the plumeria you cannot escape when you're in Hawaii. At least I've been to Honolulu, but I know when I was growing up in Illinois, our spring flowers had a very intense fragrance, because they only had such a tiny little growing season compared to Texas, where things can bloom and grow all year. They don't have to be super attractive.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Such is the intelligence of nature around the world. If we tune into the nature on our doorstep, then the flowers will say, well, to attract the bees and the insects, I need this to happen at this time of year, and then it's done. Then my job with fragrance is done. I can move on and bloom and reproduce and do what I need to do on a physical level. My connection with flowers is at the spirit level, the vibrational essence level.
Right. It's not the way we normally think
No,
of,
no,
you know.
no. So it's kind of, yes, and there's, this is where the gift of flowers is extraordinary. They'll have the physical sense, so you can make essential oils from them. They'll have medicinal purposes, herbal medicine. You can take extracts, tinctures, but what I do is accept the energetic, the spiritual signature of each flower or tree or herb into water. And it's like a code. It's like a vibrating code, if you like, that is imprinted into the water, which then you introduce into your own physical being. But it has it links through your meridians, which link in turn through the the nadis, the nandis, the meridian system out into the chakras, and so there's I look at it in terms of every flower in terms of its vibrational or spiritual essence.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go to her website, which I had up earlier and I will put back up again.
Yeah.
If you go here, she has the most incredible photographs of flowers, and that's how she leads you through the website to look at things. And when you work with creating the little essences to people, are they tinctures? Are they essences? What are they?
Okay, so to make an essence, they are tinctures. So they are. It's a dropper bottle. So yes, it begins with making a mother tincture. So in terms of making an essence, it's never me that puts my hand up and says, "Oh, I'm going to make pink rose today," and it's going to be from that rose. I get a feeling of, oh, there's a flower calling somewhere. So I usually get a feeling of 2-3 days before, and then on the day I get to know kind of the area of the garden where it will be, and then there's a calling sort of later at the time of day. This is going to be the flower. And then for me, there's different ways that people produce or create essences. I have always been guided not to pick the flower. So I have a bowl of spring water. So I hold the bowl of water under the flower. Then I pour pure spring water over the flower. So it's like going through the energy field of the flower and touching the physical flower and flowing into my bowl. And then for me, it's like an instant alchemy of energy that happens. So it's come through the energy field of the flower into the water. And that water that I'm holding in the bowl is then my mother tincture. So I then take that and I make a 50-50. I use organic vodka. I make a mother tincture with organic vodka, and from that I make my stock and dose bottles. So what I end up with from a large sort of litre size mother tincture of essence ends up as a little 30 ml.
Like probably about this size, right?
That's it, 30 ml.
Yeah,
30
that,
ml
and this one is probably a tincture you're used to. It's a botanical. It's a Native American one. It's blood. It's a dragon's blood.
Oh.
And that stuff, I tell you what, the reason I have it here on my desk is I have a spray bottle. And if things get hinky around me, I do my prayers, I say everything else. And if it really gets bad, I drag out the dragon's blood and blast it.
I love the name. I need some of that.
It's an interesting mix. It comes from the tribes that were originally in Florida, and then it moved west. The other tribes, the Cherokee, the Trail of Tears, where they got Andrew Jackson threw them out. And so they came over and they found ways to make it with the plants where they went to. But yeah.
That's interesting. It's like the Aboriginal, because I'm
your Aboriginal tribes.
My Aboriginal, I'm fascinated and have studied their medicine ways. And their Australians, Aboriginals talk about their song lines, where they would talk and sing. They had trackways all over Australia where they would meet the flowers at certain times of year when they knew they were in bloom, and they would sing the flowers and take the energy of the flower in song and essence spirit onto the next location. And so, yeah, very much a similar. And as they were, again, enclosed in reserves.
And you talked about your house where you had to put in raised beds to grow the plant you wanted. Yeah, we do that a lot in Texas because we have caliche clay soil. We have soil. We don't, where I grew up in the Midwest, we'd had the glaciers that come over and they left wonderful soil. The glaciers never made it here.
Oh, no, okay.
We were under an ocean for a long time, and then when it came up, it became limestone. And then the limestone's broken down into what's called caliche clay, and it's horrible stuff to dig in. So you have to do a whole lot if you want to raise something on the bare ground where I live. You have to do a lot to it, or you do it on raised beds.
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad you said that, because the chap in the UK, from where we lived in Kent, was clay. It was part of the channel. So again, the same thing.
Yeah, you were under the ocean, and that part rose up when the glaciers.
So it's kind of, you make pottery out of it in winter, and then in the summer it bakes hard, and you can't, But there's a chap called Charles Dowding in the UK, a wonderful website, and has many international clients. Charles Dowding, DOWDING.com, Charles Dowding. And he, years ago, 30 years ago, started No Dig, because he observed nature and said, well, a forest, as it comes into autumn and winter, just, all the leaves fall, and it, that happens year after year, and it creates the most amazing soil through just letting it. Don't dig it up, just let nature do its thing. So what he started experimenting with was just on grassland, he would mow his grass very, very short, either put cardboard down or not. We never did, and then pile up good quality compost, if you have it, on top of that to about a level of 4 inches, cover it for 3 or 4 months. We sometimes cover it for just a month because we're followed by the nature spirits, and they say a month is enough. Because when you cover it, then the worms and all the microbes in the baked clay have got an opportunity to come up and go, woohoo, this is nice. We'll sort of merge like a weaving that they do between the compost that's put on top and up through the clay, and you take it off and you plant in, and you don't even have to dig up, and then you get the most amazing results from it. And he is a lovely website to look at from around the world, because he has.
I put it in the comments, Charles Dowding.
.com. And he did that 30 years ago and was ridiculed and laughed at, and now he's welcomed by the Royal Horticultural Society and everything. So the world needs pioneers like that to create change. So,
that reminds me, there's a young Canadian forestry student, and she'd gotten her master's in forestry, and she said that when they would clear cut forests, which they do all the time, and they just go back and they plant. You'd always get these things, buy our something and we're going to plant a tree in your name on the side of a mountain. Well, they never lived. I mean, they didn't survive. And I mean, they didn't all die, but they just didn't grow into a big lush forest. All you ended up with a bunch of poles that are all trying to outgrow each other. So this young forester came in and she looked at areas where humans hadn't gone in and tried to intercede after something had been clear cut. And she saw that normal seeds would get blown in there, grass would, and other things would get grown in there. Animals would bring their little acorns and things in there. And so she proposed that they take an area and using human tools, but to recreate sort of the natural mix. So she did a whole paper on this and how much better the forest grew doing that. Well, they said, you can't say that because the Forestry and Council in Canada at the time was saying, no, this is how you do it. And she said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So she got some entrepreneurs to go in with her.
Yeah.
And now the way she created replanting, this was in the late 80s, early 90s. The way she created is now what everybody does. They don't stick little tiny, little pine trees and say we're going to regrow the forest, because that does not regrow the forest.
No, fantastic. And that's where Floral Essence Farming, I know, is pioneering, because it's the next. There's a lot of interest. Even Charles Dowding has a little book about it that he doesn't shout about. Working with the subtle realms, or the quiet, the nature spirits, the fairies, whatever people. I mean, there's a hierarchy in nature that, like there is in a company, there's a board of directors, and the directors, and then the managers, and then the executives who implement. So there is a nature. But there's no infighting. Everyone's happy with their bit. I'll take directions from, the landscape angels hand it down to the Devas, who hand it on to the fairies and the nature spirits. Everybody has their job as building. They're the architects of nature, the invisible architects that repair and rebuild when damage is done. And that's not even my belief, it's my knowing that that's the next step for humanity, is to really understand this intelligent. It's not a random sort of airy fairy
idea. No,
company. It's a real company with a real job to do in terms of building and maintaining the planet, and it needs people to work with that invisible company. And certainly in the UK, there's a thing called the Land Art Creative. There's different bodies and organizations that are starting to give voice in a very quiet way to this level of to this company of nature. Sorry.
In the US, it's been beavers. They put beavers out in land that had just become useless. It had been overfarmed and overused.
We've
got a few beavers live in there, and within 3 to 5 years, they've got this lush, great land. And the other one I've seen in Europe, it's been wild horses.
Yes, absolutely. Wild horses and beavers for flood control in areas. Yeah. But wild horses, absolutely. Yes. And there's a great place called Nep Rewilding, Isabella Tree, wonderful lady who had a 3,000 acre farm that she inherited. And it was basically arable, monoculture crops. And 30 years later, it's now a most beautiful. She's called it rewilding, but she just handed it over to nature again, a bit like Michelle Small-Wright did with the nature intelligences. This Isabella Tree handed her farm over to nature and said, "You take it over, and we'll observe and increase in biodiversity, increase in species." It's now a model that the government have become interested in. So
yes, because it's so much cheaper than anything we try to do.
Yes,
and go and make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
And in my world, what happened is I did my woo-woo stuff for a while. Then I found crystals, worked with crystals for a while. And then one night I got taken off by the elementals, and I got to meet all of them in one night. Yeah. And they had a party, and they explained to me why I needed to understand them. And I thought, this is really cool. That's when I met my dragon Cecil. And he occasionally when Cecil shows up, it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
Places. But
great.
And great name. And then when I came back, I told a couple of my psychic friends what had happened, and I said, they really want me to get on YouTube and talk about how I met them all, and I met a unicorn, and how lovely it was.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not so sure. So then I got in my car to go run an errand, and there was a gold dragonfly beside my car. Now, where I don't live in a place that has a lot of dragonflies. Okay. So I'm like looking at it, and it's like rattling against my window, and I go, what's going on? And it got right in front of my windshield, and it kept being right in front of me. And I said, you're not going to go away till I do this, are you? And basically, at that point, he went poof, and he disappeared. So I got the message. So I went on bravely and I talked about Cecil, my dragon, and a friend of mine, well, that I told you about that was interested in starseed stuff. She had a friend who doesn't paint this kind of stuff, but she'd sent her 2 weeks before I had my vision. She had sent her a picture of a dragon and a portal hole, because he took me through a portal. The portal to get to where they live in the middle of the earth is through the North Atlantic Sea.
Yeah.
And I rode Cecil into there, and it ends up, my friend sent me, she said, does this look familiar? And I said, crap, that's my dragon. Where'd you get his picture? And she said, I have a friend who doesn't draw these things. She's not part of our world. She just said, I don't know why I painted this, but I have to get it to you. So sometimes they're subtle, and sometimes
yes, yeah, and sometimes just you got to get the message. Yeah,
I have a lady who takes a lot of pictures. She has a lot of elementals in a little garden. You can actually see them in her flowers.
Yeah.
That's
magic, but magic is real. Magic
is
so
this is a real magic, and people need to understand we can use it.
Yes,
and we can. Yeah. It's there for us to use. It's not there for us to abuse. It's not there for us to.
Yeah, no, it's co-create. That's why I use the term co-create. It's to co-create, not dominate. Just don't impose our plan on it. Just ask nature. Ask. They're all around. They're just like waiting for. Oh, someone's listening. Hooray! Right. Let's get on work.
We've got quite a few people watching in the chat. We're taking questions. It's not just me talking. So if you guys would like to throw in a question.
One thing I also do, sorry, is I write stories.
That's right, you do.
My work is essentially about bringing nature's wisdom alive. And I write stories which are with animals as my stars. But it's a way, again, of children know this. They know it intimately, and it's part of their. I wish I'd been taught it at school, rather than anyway. And so I write stories which, again, children, adults can think, oh, that's a nice story, but most people who read them know that I'm writing truth, right? Because the stories are, So I have little characters that, and YouTube channels and things, but it's another way. So flowers, flower essences, and stories are just anything to help people connect and to not only believe but to know. It's not that I don't. It's not. How can I say? Oh, I want people to believe. People have to come to it themselves. But I know that everybody in their soul knows this. What's in the way is all the conditioning that we've grown up with. So anyway, questions.
Yes. Okay. Here, this is one person's comment. Mom was a master gardener with stellar flowers and veg.
Wonderful.
I know you've come over and studied here, but in America, and I know around here, they have master gardener programs where you actually go back, and it's like a degree, and they teach you all of the mechanics and the things. And all the people I know who are in that for kind of what you're in for. They understand that their spirit is so much better when it's opened up to those things.
Yes, and that's a thank you for that comment, because there's so much in the UK, I don't know how it is in America, and worldwide, about the mental well-being of gardening. And I know that's the next step people are wanting to take, is understanding that it's beyond the mental is just a tiny part of us. We're calling now that everybody's heart is crying out for this deeper connection. And that's what the nature spirits are there for, and waiting to make that connection through flowers, and I'd love to teach. That's one thing I'm offering to gardeners around the world, is a mentoring program too.
You do teach courses through your website, don't you?
I do. At the moment, I'm offering it's my flagship 12-month online Floral Essence Farming course. And there's going to be other short courses that are coming later in the year. So yes, I do I have one that I'm going to teach as starts 30th of November, and then the others are going to be coming along shortly.
Well, she's been bopping around England, guys. She's had the wonderful chance to go and Shelley's had a great chance to explore. And I bopped around England for a month with my husband one time in the early 90s, mid 90s. And we were driving over near Wales and we were going through the Cheddar Gorge. And the Cheddar Gorge, you would swear you were in a Texas canyon. I mean, the diversity, we always think of the ocean lapping up on things and old castles that are kind of halfway there, and some castles that are completely all together and still there. But there's so much to the landscape and of the whole UK.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's Ireland is the greenest.
Is travel from Scotland, Wales. Yeah, feeling the land, meeting the land, the landscape angels all over the UK, the elementals, and visiting gardens, castles. This
is somebody Marianne wants to know, how would you see to get rid of grapevines that are overtaking pine trees? Are you frozen? Okay, no, you're back.
Okay. No, that I'm not I'm going to say right now. Not a good. So, view. Your question is, how would you suggest of grapevines overtaking my pine? You can look at it in different ways. One is to get a gardener to give you advice. Okay. The other is to talk to your grapevines and your pine trees, because it's your view that you want to get rid of them and your view that they're overtaking the pine trees. So there's something going on, because pine trees have a specific essence. The bark flower remedy for pine trees is dealing with guilt, long-held guilt. And grapevines are all about letting go. So there's an interesting entwining going on there.
That is kind of,
your grapevines are not letting go of guilt.
Well, her father grew the grapes to make wine. It's the same lady.
Yeah,
her father grew those grapes.
So again, I would. It's perhaps more of a gardening question. Yeah. Okay.
But that's an interesting look at the energy of how those two.
I would sit, and yeah. I would look at.
We're starting to have connection problems, Shelley. You're freezing.
With your grapevines and your pine tree each want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be a good idea. Yeah, Danny Shea and I did a show recently. There was a physicist in Australia. Okay. This is why she was interested. She's been told the vines are not allowing the wind to go through the pine tree.
Okay. Well, I would still meditate with the vines and the pine trees. So to see what they want to be done. Because we can, again, this is co-creating with the vines and the pine trees and that part of your land. So if you go, a gardener, get gardening advice and trust what you feel about what you're hearing, what you're feeling, and what a gardener tells you to do.
Yeah. And Marianne said there was a lot of guilt for sure.
Okay.
That we're supposed
to let that go. Let that go.
Time to let that go, guys. That's what we're in the middle of. We have go out between now, Marianne, and the 9th of June, because Venus and Jupiter are going to be conjunct on the 9th of June. Go out then, and if you're watching my 9 candles, you know that's going on. Go out then and talk to them, because this is a great time. This is when we're getting messages of abundance and how to give, how to receive, and what's passionate. Oh, is this one somebody likes some of your British television? Escape to the country every chance I can. Historic buildings, landscapes, they're transformative. So
it's a great show. We love it too, and it does show the countryside to its best. It's very popular in Australia too.
yes, Shelley was born in Australia and transplanted back to Britain as an infant.
Yeah.
She had nothing to say about it.
No, I didn't. 10 months old. I got a whooping cough when I arrived in the UK. I think that was my protest.
Okay, we've got a question. I don't know if you know, what is the meaning of moss?
Okay. Look up the AlaskanEssences.com. And there's different kinds of moss. There's forgive my pronunciation, sphagnum moss.
Sphagnum.
Yeah. Again, it depends on your kind of moss and where you are. So I'm a great one for never giving a direct answer about what the meaning is, because there's the meaning of the moss in your area is different to the meaning of moss that's growing in the Yorkshire garden I'm in now. So because it depends on the environment and everything. My feeling is, moss is actually very nurturing, very nourishing.
Isn't it protective? Because we were always told to look for the moss on the tree, and it was on the north side. So if you get lost in the woods, you find your way out.
Yes, yeah. Guiding, but again, it's a real, in the UK, it's beautiful, spongy, vibrant green. It's very sort of bringing you alive on a very deep level. But if you look up the Alaskan essences and look up sphagnum moss, I think you might find that interesting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, she says the moss is slowly taking over her lawn. That just sounds. You're in Texas. That just meant you're watering it way more than you need to. But
yes, there's a problem all over the world. I can tell you, people don't want moss; they want grass. So again, what I would do there is talk to the nature spirits of your lawn.
Mm-hmm.
People go in and they spray it, they kill it. They don't want the moss, but the moss is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the nature spirits are weaving it there because something else is probably out of balance in the area. Well, I'm saying out of balance, but your lawn, you may need the moss for a very specific nurturing reason at the moment.
It's true. Mm. And the climate is changing. And it's going to, in weird ways, that's going to upset everybody's apple cart.
It's only changing because of humans, but also nature then is adjusting again. Right. Homeostasis and balance. Yeah.
So I keep telling people, Gaia can toss us off in 2 seconds. We're just fleas on her.
Absolutely. We're visitors. Yep. She can change her mind and say, you've gone too far. That's one thing. So Michelle Smallwright, that I always remember, there's this beautiful, if you can't see it, stretch your arms out full width, and she goes from one fingertip and goes, here's the beginning of the planet 4.3 billion years ago, and you come along here, and the dinosaurs are about here, and then they go extinct. You come over here, and you come here, and you come here. You come down to this side in time, and humans arrive.
Show up about that.
Yeah, they show up about here, and between here and the planet was doing very nicely all the time here. We get to hear humans arrive between here and here. There's a lot of that point and that point. There's an awful lot that's happened in the last 200,000 years or ish.
Yeah, I know. We're just such a drop in the bucket of time.
Yeah, I know. So I think nature will have the last word. Yeah.
Well, I remember that in 2017, I was watching Rory Duff, and because I was starting to understand crystals, and they talked about how every 13,000 years, something was happening to the planet, and the changes that were bombarding the planet were actually seen in rocks. It's 13,000 years ago, 26,000, 39,000 years, all the way back. The geologists kept saying, what's hitting? Well, we found out we were in a cloud in the galaxy that protected us from the neutrinos. And all of a sudden that cloud went away, and they started beaming through like enormous amounts. And that always been their fear. What would happen if too many of those hit us at once. Well, we're finding out.
Mhm.
But it really, and I was like, that was my thought. If it can change the structure of a rock,
Mhm.
what's it doing to us? We're just soft, little fleshy things,
Yes, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned rocks, because Aboriginals are very, they have a passion for passion that's part of their innate lifestyle is to read rocks.
Yeah,
The rocks are their ancestors, and they tell the stories. That's where their ancestors has walked past these rocks on their walkabouts. They've told the stories year after year. And you're right about the 13,000 year cycle, because it was about 2000 to 2012 was the switch in the Mayan calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Know all about. And there was an energy that started to come up, a wisdom that's been released that was really held deep in the earth while humanity messed around and went through its wars and its everything else, and this ancient wisdom has started to come up and bubble up through rocks and earth, specifically since 2000. So there's an awful lot of wisdom that's being released, and you can read it in rocks.
That's right. And we have a lot of sources in the world. Like, I didn't know about Shelley till a couple of weeks ago. And now we have her to add to our lexicon of wonderful folks that can help us learn. And we really appreciate you taking the time. It's 5 o'clock. It's almost dinner time in England now. When we're doing this here, it's 11 a.m. here. And I want to thank everybody showing up. They showed up early. They'll all show up again at 1 o'clock, and they'll watch it then. But
thank you very much.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. And I'd love to have you come on and maybe speak specifically to your tinctures and what you do. Or if you get when you get closer to having a class, because I have a lot of gardening people that I know, because they tell me all the time.
Okay, yeah.
They're always asking me, what rock should I put in my garden?
Great. No, I'd absolutely love that. Thank you for that invitation. Definitely.
Okay, and you take care, and we'll see everybody else later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.